Hello, this is Greg Berzinsky for Beardbrand Alliance. At about this time, I think we're in all need of some type of makeover. Stay tuned to see 3 such makeovers, style consultations, done digitally. Will it include this guy? Stay tuned. So I think you've been in the house for a while. Some people are pretty daft at doing a little bit of trimming themselves. And some of the things that I'm going to suggest in these style consultations are things that you can do. But you might have to wait until you get out of quarantine, get back on the streets to do those things to yourself. We used to do this on the Alliance. It used to be live, the live stream on Tuesdays. Beardbrand Alliance, and kind of miss those days myself, but we give style consultations that people could see by pulling up a photograph and actually talking about what we would do to the person. What I'm going to do is a little digital re-imaging of the individuals on my recommendations about what they could do. In all cases, you could do something more radical. These I think are going to turn out to be somewhat more subtle, but maybe some of them won't be. So stay tuned, and we will be looking at the computer screen as I work some digital magic on some victims or on some clients as they get a style consultation. Let's jump into it. We have guys here in their early 30s, in their 40s, and in their 50s, representing guys who have 2 types of beards, pretty full, and actually ones that are not so full. I'm going to concentrate mostly on beard work here, and you'll see that when I show you the first, actually when I show you all the pictures, you'll completely understand what I'm talking about. First guy up here is Skip, who's an Aussie, 31 years old, and my brief conversation with him, he said that he has a bit of patchiness in his beard, and that he is looking to improve his mustache. He has a brown beard. His mustache actually is pretty blonde, as is his soul patch. He has disconnect from his mustache, soul patch, and beard, which is very common in these areas. A lot of guys have patchy areas here, to the point where I don't even see them as patchy in most guys. I think that's a standard growth pattern in a lot of men, including myself. This area is my one of my patchy areas on my beard. Anyhow, let's see what this looks like from the side. He seems to have some even coverage on the side here, even with this patch, but there seems to be a chunk taken out of this side. Let's look at that side by side. So here he is from the side, and you can see that he has those patches that I was pointing at from the front. The side's a little fuller. I think this side generally is a little fuller down below. This, I think, is probably more lighting and more combing than anything. But if you look at this area here, it's pretty full, and this area is actually fuller than that area. So if we go back to the front, but this side has the chunk. So this lets me know that this is a styling issue as opposed to actually probably the hair issue, since this is actually thicker through here than it is over here, and this reads as a chunk from the front. You need to think about the way you're styling this. So this is definitely a case where a hairdryer with some heat will allow you to push these hairs into this location, to fluff these out, and to push these hairs back. And to do that uniformly on both sides will help his beard look symmetrical from the front. So right now it's not symmetrical. So looking at that side view again, and I'm going to show you some recommendations on what I would do. So let's look at him from the side here. He shaves his head, so we're concentrating on the beard here. When you have a beard that is patchy or thinner in areas, I think a lot of guys want to say, well, I'm just going to keep growing it, keep growing it, keep growing it. He's had this beard for, I think, a few months now already, 2 months at least through quarantine, and he's not going to get any more hair. He might get a random hair popping up that's currently dormant, but for the most part, this is the extent of his beard. So growing it another month isn't going to pop any more hair out here or down here below. These hairs are not contributing to the fullness of his beard, as you can see from the front. Those hairs don't even show up from the front of your beard. So what would I do? one thing, you know, he shaves his head, and you can actually see that he comes down pretty low here. This is something that guys ask me if they're wearing a shaved skull, or if they're wearing a bald fade from low, medium to high. Where do I start my beard? If you're tapering your beard down from 0 into stubble, into the beard, that's one look. In his case, because it's a little challenged in certain areas down below, I would take advantage of an area where he actually has hair. I mean, he has a lot of hair here, and so I would encourage him to grow his hair. I would encourage him or recommend that he trim this line sharp, trim this line sharp, and trim this line sharp. So what does that look like? Keep an eye on the screen. There we go. Whoop. Did not touch any of the hairs in this zone itself, with the exception of giving him more hair. So taking this line up, some guys can take this to a point even, or wrap it around the ear. It doesn't matter what you do, but in his case, in Skip's case, I would grow some hair up here. Trimming those lines off of the cheek, on the back, and on the neck definitely help to strengthen the appearance of his beard. So how is that manifested from the front? We're going to grow a little more hair here. That's not really going to show a lot in this photograph, but with styling, we're going to improve this area just by styling. I wouldn't trim much off of the front here, but I also wouldn't get this much longer unless he wants it to really look like a goatee that's detached from the sides of his hair. That's also another recommendation that he could do. Since he grows this area really dense on his beard, he could shave the sides and wear a predominant Van Dyke goatee. So one of the reasons his mustache, I think in his mind, looks a little sparse is actually due to the color. He is definitively blonde. His brown hair, some grays starting to appear at 31, but this area is pretty blonde. And you can see that, you know, his eyebrows are brown. He has brown beard, but this is blonde. Usually say live with your color, but if you want your mustache to be a little thicker, you can actually maybe use some temporary color, like Carlos did recently, to tone that a little darker. See what that looks like, and to see if you like that look, and do the same thing down here before doing it permanently. But in any case, if he wants to get his mustache fuller, I would recommend actually keeping this hair, growing it, but getting it off of his lip. So what does that look like when you get that hair off your lip? Just keep an eye on the screen. So I'm going to zoom in closer to take a look at that. So watch this area here. This is a grooming thing to get this side. We're going to trim down the sides, and we're actually going to push the hair over. So you can either cut this like here, or push it to the side using your hair dryer, using styling balm and wax to get that hair out of the way. So restyled on this side and this side, cheeks cut down and mustache pushed out of the way. There you go. Some little tweaks, like I said. This is a small change here, trimming and lining these areas. Pushing the mustache out of the way will make everything look a little more dense. Your mustache is going to look dense if you can sweep it to the side with the aid of wax and with the aid of styling gel and your hair dryer. Getting those areas off to the side will make it appear more dense until those hairs get long enough to engage into the curl. At that point, he could decide that he wants to wear a curl. Having this hair get longer here, the tails of his mustache, can help to camouflage and make a visual connection between mustache and beard that isn't necessarily as thick looking as he would want. That's my recommendations. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. All these guys, every guy, comb your eyebrows, just push them up out of the way. So just take a look at that. Very subtle change here by just pushing them out of the way. So watch this area here, push them up. Opens your eyes, makes them brighter looking. You'll look more finished, and you're putting all this attention into your beard. Give some attention to your eyes. That's it for Skip. Let's move on to our second subject. Okay, we have Todd here from Texas, and Todd has been growing a beard for a few months now. So in January, this was Todd in January, you can see he's not only growing a beard, he is also growing his hair. So he had a full goatee and a mustache, trimmed mustache and a cut Van Dyke, and shaved sides and a more executive haircut. Not so much a fade on the side, but pretty much a short haircut. And in quarantine since, he has let his beard grow. So since January, here we are in May, he has added about 2.5 inches of growth or more to the front of his hair. His hair seems to grow really fast. So I'm like questioning, is this really January? Because it did grow pretty fast. He went from 0 on the sides to the hair he has here, and his mustache is actually taking off and looking considerably fuller. Let's take a look at his side view. You can see he has let his hair grow, and he has some great hair, great wave pattern here, great color. And this is his beard from the side. Now you can see actually he has a little bit of disconnect from his beard to his hair. So even when you have all of this hair, he has what appears to be a slightly thinner side. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Slightly thinner here on the side, almost no hair connecting the beard to the hair. And then you can actually see that this hair is new growth compared to the hair on the bottom here. So going back to that first picture, my recommendation for him, since he started out with the goatee, he said he might be headed for a yeared. And so if that's the case, let it go. You can just let it go. You can take an approach like some of our other guys and actually do some systematic trimming. In his case, since this did not start from 0, I don't think it's terrible to actually cut off the bottom of the beard here. So I've made a line here. And what I would recommend also is not cutting the sides, but to groom them. And to groom them by applying some heat, not to straighten them, but to get them tighter to his face, and by using styling balm to push these areas down, not cutting off these flyaways. I would not cut these off. You would be systematically thinning out the beard, but using heat and using styling product to get these areas into control. You can see actually he is trying to get some handlebars here. And I think this is just a question of styling. I think this is using heat again and using a round brush to get the curls more activated and getting the hair off of the lip, and using styling balm wax. When you start getting a bigger mustache with a lot more, you're going to have to step into some other materials or some other products. And I've made previous videos about that. And so, but for now, he has, I think this is a question of grooming. We're going to leave his hair the way it is. Now, if you go back to this picture, we're going to respect the fact that he wants to grow out his hair, but he's worn a very nice executive haircut. So he can always come back to that, but let's see where this is going. You know what, as you're growing out your hair, the front actually I don't think looks as good as the side of his hair does. So when you look at his side, here's the other side, a little more coverage on the side, but this beautiful wave pattern, beautiful color is not so evident from the front of his head here. So what would I do? Let's start with the side. We're going to leave the hair the way it is. I would suggest maybe loosening the front up and the front of his hair and getting that looser like it seems to be in this picture. In this case, I would actually take some of the hair that's associated with the sideburn growing into the hair and comb that down to make a connect, or try to get a connection between that and the beard. Some light line work here, some not so much trimming, but styling to tighten up these edges, and let's cut some hair off the bottom here. Optional, you can also do that with grooming, but this would be my recommendation for him, since he is cheating a little bit in terms of growing a year, since he started out with some significant hair in the front, to let that hair, to cut that hair and to lighten that. So let's take a look at the before and after. So keep an eye on the screen. We're going to add some hair here, and that's really letting this hair grow down a little bit, or fall down a little bit, and cutting it accordingly. Trimming, styling, styling, cutting. So here we go. So took some hair off the bottom, just pretty much straight across the bottom, clean this up, and that's really a styling issue. This is styling. This is one area where, without knowing what the hair looks like underneath, this could be a possible area. I cut this area on my hair. Even though I'm wearing a boxy beard, the sides of my beard are actually cut back here. So if you look to where he was, this hair here could either be cut off straight, pulling it back slightly and cutting it off. That's what I would do. Or coaxed straight down and styled under with a round brush. Would keep the natural wave that he has in here, not trying to straighten this beard, but trying to just get some control toward the bottom of the beard. You can see the cleaner line here, and the wispiness of the sideburn when let down will fill in that area. So what does that look like from the front? Put a line here to suggest, you know, you might want to come up that far. So what does that look like when you take that up? Once again, we're styling the sides to get them tighter. Cleaning up the mustache by styling. This is really an issue of styling. It's not so much cutting, especially if he wants to grow the beard. So keeping an eye on the screen, we're going to take the bottom up. We're going to style the sides down. Clean up the mustache. Same thing, heating, applying some heat and your round brush to get this off to the side. So all of that is making a big difference. The cleaner cheek lines, letting some hair down here, neatening this up through styling, and taking the length up on the bottom. Once again, before, after. Got some concern, maybe it's not concern, but his mustache being half black and or half dark brown and half gray. Once again, you could add some temporary color to this, or to color one side very judiciously if you want it to be symmetrical. Very common pattern. I mean, I have that myself. A dark mustache, these tails being darker in this area too. Very seems to be a Costa or very standard pattern with men when they start to go gray. So that's Todd from Texas, and recommendation for him as he prepares to grow a beard is to back up on the bottom and just spend his time in grooming. So here we go. Actually, this isn't our subject. This is a picture of what our subject might possibly look like with a haircut and with a significant beard trim. So let's call this inspiration image for this particular guy. Ready? Actually, I looked at this and said, wow, that's my hair pattern. This is probably my hair, my current hair color. I probably have this much gray if I cut it off. The darker eyebrows, darker mustache, and I have a white soul patch, but pretty much this darkness here and here. And I'm like, wow, okay, maybe could I look like that? But then I realized I have some patches here. So I don't think I can go ultimately as short as this, but really I would love to wear my beard in a stubble presentation like this with maybe a bigger mustache. So what I did was I took me here, this picture was taken just yesterday, and envisioned myself. I'm holding off on getting a beard trim. I want to do that with Andy, the barber. So you can be looking forward to that right after quarantine. And so in this case, take a look at my recommendations for this guy. This is something I think I'm going to approach to or try to do when I meet Andy for a beard trim. And this will involve cutting the beard back. So once again, leaving the hair long and cutting the beard back. I'm going to keep the mustache, keep it full, with the capability of possibly wearing a handlebar, but taking the beard significantly back. So his growth here might be just a little less than a month. I think I'm going to need about probably at least 6 months or 2 months worth of growth. My current beard is probably in the neighborhood of a 7-month beard. I have not cut it since January or from December 30th. And it's been styled here, slightly rolled under, but I think this, you can see the difference here, the amount of hair that I'll be taking off will be at least 2.5 inches, representing almost 5 months worth of growth. And if it's 7 months, then I'm looking at a 2-month beard to take it back to this length. What do you think? Comment below and tell me what you think of my style recommendations for myself, and if you concur. There you go. 3 guys with a little bit of work and with a lot of work done on each of them through Photoshop to see them reimagined with a little bit of trimming on primarily the beards. You can see that making some small changes, some small tweaks can make a big difference on how your beard looks. And so you don't always have to go crazy. So that's the nice thing about making those small changes. You can probably do those at home. We've done lots of videos on Beardbrand and Beardbrand Alliance on how you can shorten your beard a little bit, lining your cheeks, threading your cheeks, doing a number of things to make those small changes which make a big impact on the way your beard looks and how you present yourself to the world. So I hope that's helpful. What's the first thing you're going to do when you get out of quarantine? Hopefully, if you're growing a corona beard, you'll keep that beard, and that you'll take the opportunity when you're first out, when you can book that appointment, to do a little line work and keep the beard, but make it a little sharper before you join the workforce with real humans. Anyhow, until we meet again,